Welcome to the Boomer and X podcast. I am X.
And I am Boomer.
How we all doing?
We're doing good, man. It's been a while since we've gotten together.
I know, it has been a while.
So the last few times we've tried to kind of be on our topics, we tried to make sure that we were, I think, maybe talking about things that weren't controversial or anything like that. But then the past few weeks, with everything that's happened in this country, has made it real difficult not to talk about some of this. Mm-hmm. I know that, we talked about, here's what I don't get, Brian. I don't understand this. The majority of the people in the United States are centrists, whether they're Republican or they're Democrat, but yet we let the small faction of each one of the parties hijack the respective parties and give them the voice, and we sit there twiddling our thumbs. And you know what? I'm sick and tired of it. I am.
Continue.
Well, and so anyways, it just seems to me that our country has completely lost its ability to have a coherent, sane conversation with each other and try to get something done. All we do is, it reminds me of Dr. Seuss, the Butter Battle book. Let's just keep throwing rocks at each other until somebody throws a bigger rock.
Right.
And it's annoying to me. I'm tired of it. I'm older, and I just, I think of what it's going to do with my kids and my grandkids. Well, you're one of my kids. I mean, as far as the age goes, but especially the grandkids. I mean, are they ever going to be able to sit in a country where people sit down and work out their differences?
God, I hope so. I mean, the whole point of kids being able to sit down and work things out is something we covered a little bit on the other episode.
Yes, we did.
Because they're not doing that anymore. Right. So I would love to see that happen. I'm just not that optimistic that we're heading in that direction.
Do you think that's because we're old?
No. No, I think it's because technology has taken over our communications. People still feel they're communicating and bonding because they're doing it online. They are still communicating.
Yeah.
There might be some bonding going on as well. Open discussion, though, is not the same when you're chatting with someone in a chat room or on a forum of some kind. People are a lot more civil with each other in person.
Yeah, there's no FaceTime.
Right.
Well, there is FaceTime, but there's
right.
no FaceTime.
Right.
It seems that, I don't know, this whole thing, regardless of how you think about it, the whole Jimmy Kimmel thing, about the question of the First Amendment and the freedom of speech and things like that, I find it very disconcerting that we seem to be able to tell people what to say and what not to say, but we don't let them say anything.
Right.
So it just, I don't know. How do you feel about what went on?
I mean, it for the fact that they were, Trump was such a big proponent on free speech, and he was saying if you lose that, everything's going to come tumbling down. And then he turns around and tries to silence all of his critics by having them thrown off the air. I mean, he literally went to the FCC chairman and had him do his bidding. And then the FCC chairman went around celebrating how he was going to knock this guy off the air, that guy off the air, and literally strong-armed them. We can do this the easy way or we can do this the hard way, and if you keep this up, we're going to have a lot of work ahead of us in the FCC. I mean, that's as blatant a threat as you can get.
Yeah.
And that's not the job of the president, to go to the FCC and pressure him to silence anyone who makes fun of him. And I think when we've gotten to that point in our democracy, we've reached a very dangerous point.
Yeah, and political satire has been around since Washington. There was always the point where we could, part of being a public figure is being scrutinized and also criticized, and it just doesn't seem to be happening anymore. And I think, when I think back to the Constitutional Conventions, when the First Amendment, this, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of religion, freedom of press. One of the reasons these individual rights were so important to the anti-federalists was because they did not want to live under a king again, and
Right.
they wanted to make sure that individual rights were as important as the rights of the federal government. And that was there was no way the Constitution would have passed without the first 10 amendments, of which the First Amendment, as we just talked about, without the Bill of Rights, because the anti-federalists just were not going to pass. They weren't going to pass the Constitution without it.
Without it, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And so, all these individual liberties and freedoms, and it doesn't say we have to agree with any of them.
Right.
God, if we did have to agree with everybody, we'd live in a monarchy or an oligarchy or something like that. But I don't know. I'm tired of people feeling like they don't have a voice.
Well, yeah, or that if they use that voice, they're going to get deported or jailed or taken off the air or lose their jobs.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, let's get into the reasons that the founding fathers framed the Constitution that way and framed things that way. They came from England, land of the king, and couldn't criticize the king, couldn't say anything bad about him. I mean, I think a better example is the Soviet Union, where all communications, all media, was all state controlled. You could not say anything bad about the government. Now they have a sort of a pretend free speech going on over there, and it's not even, they're not even pretending anymore.
It kind of depends who you are and whether you're associated with Putin or not.
Right. If you say something bad about Putin,
right,
you disappear.
Yeah.
Left and right, that's been happening for
sounds
decades.
Familiar. Not the disappearing part, but the silencing part.
Yeah.
And it just it goes on, and I know that we talked. You and I talked. I don't know if it's on the previous one or not, the one that we haven't published. I know it's not on the one that we put on the website, but the thing about immigration, we didn't talk very much about immigration, other than the fact that we had a person who had immigrated,
who had a great story to tell. Yeah,
went through the great story.
But we didn't debate.
The immigration.
Right.
And you and I have, outside of this podcast, had the discussion about immigration, and I, for the life of me, still do not know how this is such a powder keg, and how we can't get to the point of figuring this piece out, because to me it's not that complicated.
Right.
What do you think? I mean,
No, we were talking about this earlier. Like, if we just had a system that, when someone's coming into the country, you can do a background check on them in their country. You may or may not get anywhere with that, right? But get them all on paper. Get everyone that comes into the country on paper. Get them to make sure there's no fear of signing up.
Right.
That they're not going to get sent home for signing up. And that's why they don't now, right? And that's why they come in illegally. But if we had a system where they stood a chance of getting in legally, and we can document that, and if they commit violent crimes, we send them away.
Or if they have committed violent crimes, which would come up.
Or if they have in the past, right.
Yeah. And I kind of equate it with the draft. You don't even know what that is, but when I was
of course
young,
I know what the draft is.
No, I mean, you didn't experience.
No.
But when you were on your 18th birthday, you had to register for the draft.
Right.
And I don't understand why, we can't put a mechanism, like you said, in place where people that are already here, they have X amount of time, 3-4 months, to register, to be documented, quote unquote. And once they've done that, and anybody from that point forward coming to the country does it, that's fine. If you are on the registered rolls, for the lack of a better word, when you get stopped, then at least you're somewhat legal and you're going through the process.
Right.
But
there's a record.
There's a record of you being here.
Right.
But there has to be some sort of, like you said, amnesty to get these people to be able to do this. And to just put them all on a plane and ship them off. It sounds great, and it's great TV, and it's great, huff and puff, and
Yeah.
I'm going to blow your house down, and we're going to kick all of you to the curb, kind of stuff. But it's not realistic, and all it does is just create animosity,
Right.
and fear, like you said.
Right. Right, exactly. And you have a lot of people here who are off the books because of our policy of
Correct.
basically sending them out. And that's only going to get worse now because they're going to be more afraid to, come out and register for anything.
Right.
I don't think it's accomplishing it. And I don't think sending them to the worst El Salvadorian prison in the world. I mean, this place is known for when you enter, you will not be leaving here. They put them in cages. It's inhumane, and that's not our style. We don't run our prison. Well, we probably do run our prisons a little bit like that. But now, if you're just talking about gang members with violent criminal records, that's one thing. But that was not the case. And then we even found out one of the persons was not in this gang, had nothing to do, and Trump was ordered by our courts to get him back. And he's like, no.
Yeah, it's very draconian the way we've gone about this, and I don't think there's anybody out there on either side that doesn't agree that immigration is a problem.
Right.
It's again, but to go ahead and get everybody into these polarized camps where nobody can agree on anything, and there's no hope for any sort of compromise. Everybody's sitting there pointing their fingers to each other, saying you're right and I'm wrong, and nothing gets done. But we keep it going, and we keep the volatility going, which is exactly what I think the extremists on both sides of the parties want. They want the volatility.
Yeah.
They want the discourse, or not discourse. They want the discord, and they want to make sure that nobody agrees on anything, because that's how a lot of them, frankly, just justify their existence. I'm here because I want this kind of attitude, and it's really troubling to know that we can't get that done. And the other thing that has become apparent, we're talking about the amendments to the Constitution. In the Constitution, the in order to change, an amendment in the Constitution, it's a very cumbersome and almost unrealistic path to do it, and that was on purpose. They
I was going to say, thank God.
Yeah, no, they wanted to make sure that there was a consensus, general consensus on everything. I mean, if you have to have 3/4 of the states, 38 states ratify it, after it comes out of Congress, where 2/3 of the people in Congress Congress hadn't agreed 2/3 on anything that I know of, anything of importance.
Right.
And I think Trump, and this is what's troubling to me about the way he's handled this, is he knows how hard it is to get it done. So anything that he thinks can't get done through that avenue and that
Executive
path,
order.
and he goes straight to the executive orders, and that's what he did with the 14th Amendment. Yeah, and I think that's 14. Yeah, it is. And saying and trying to get the people to the law of the soil. For those that don't know, the law of soil simply says that if you're born here, you have a right to be here, and you have the right to be a citizen. And he wanted to take that away.
Right.
Well, that's great. I mean, you don't have to agree with it, but you can't just write on a piece of paper that you disagree with it. And we're going to make
and then
it
it goes
illegal.
away. Exactly.
And everything I've read on that, every article, whether it's in the conservative tabloids or whatever, or the liberal ones, everything I've read on that is that, without exception, except for maybe the people I'm talking the far right, it says that it's not that his executive orders are not enforceable because they're just not constitutional.
Right.
Yeah.
But he goes through them anyway, and yeah, I do feel like a lot of the country's just bending over, bowing down for him. even on the Democratic side,
Yeah.
some, but he's gotten everyone to a point where they're afraid of him.
And let's talk about that for a minute. What's everybody so afraid of?
He can destroy people's careers overnight by calling them a name. I mean, he did it in the
nanny,
first.
nanny, poo poo.
Well, I know,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
if you're built your whole career and you don't want to lose it because he's saying one, no, I mean, some of them are actually speaking up to him, and I think that's great. Why more are not doing that? I have no one on the right, almost no one on the right is.
Although
saying
that
anything.
did change a little bit with the Jimmy Kimmel thing,
Which is great.
which was nice
Which is
to
great.
see, and
Right.
he even thanked him.
But we
yeah.
have two sides
Yeah.
demonizing the crap out of each other, and if I call you an asshole, you're not going to suddenly go like, Brian's right. I'm
Yeah.
an asshole.
Right.
I'm going to come over to Brian's side and start voting for who he votes for because he's right. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
You can't insult people and expect them to take your side.
Yeah, all arbitration and all negotiation, the whole point of getting that started is finding common ground.
Right.
And other than the fact that we're all Americans, there really isn't a lot of common ground that is being discussed because it immediately comes into a name calling,
Right.
a vitriolic kind of
Right.
of conversation, and everybody is is just throwing out their hands up in the air. But when I say everybody, I don't believe it is everybody, Brian, and that's what we were talking about.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
It's the far extremes on either side
Yeah.
that don't want you to sit. People were criticizing Bill Maher for having dinner with Donald Trump,
Right.
and it's like, well, how can we expect to get anywhere with anyone if we don't sit down and talk to them?
Right.
I mean, yeah, maybe we win over a lot of fans by making them fun of them on TV or whatever, and that's America. That's great. I love that, but to say you can't sit down and have dinner, you can't not sit at a table with that person. They're a murderer. They're a whatever. They're a fascist. That doesn't get us anywhere.
Right.
That doesn't get us anywhere. And we should be thankful that they say some of the asinine crap that they say because now we know where they stand. If they weren't allowed to say that stuff, we would not know where any of these people stand. And there's a price to pay with freedom of speech, unfortunately.
Well,
Hate
there's a
speech is protected.
Yeah, and it's called accountability.
Yeah.
And responsibility. I mean, you can say whatever you want,
Right.
but you better be able to
Pay the price.
Pay the price,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And the consequences. And we've had that discussion. It's not about. Sometimes it's not about whether you have the right to say it. It's about whether you're prepared to suffer the consequences for saying it, and sometimes that's a big difference.
Right.
And and you're right. There's a lot of people that are being afraid. So if it's true, I mean, we were talking about this as well, and I think it's true. I said 2 out of 5 in each party. You said it's more like 1 out of 5. So let's split the difference. Let's say 1.5 out of 5
Okay.
people in each one of the parties are on the extreme. That's 3 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
So that means there's 70% that have some sort of common ground
Right.
and some sort of start. So frankly, I don't want to say it right out, but F those
Right.
that don't want to don't want to work towards any sort of compromise.
But then who are we going to be able to point at to say, look, you on the right have all these crazy extremists? You know what I mean? With each side points to the extremes of the other side to paint the entire side that way.
To validate.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's so if we lose that, if we lose those people to point at, where are we then? Then we have to actually maybe talk about things we agree on.
Yeah, I think we need to quit pointing fingers. Well, I know where a good start would be to sit down with somebody, and we had this discussion when we were talking about rap sessions back in the hippie days.
Oh, yeah.
To sit down with somebody and that you don't agree with, and I don't care if you have to put rules in place where one person has to be quiet for 5 minutes so
Right.
the other person can express themselves, and really, and we also talked about this. We've lost the art of listening, and so how do we get people to start talking to each other, put their frickin' cell phones down, their computers down, and quit looking for stuff that will go ahead and validate your already preconceived narrative
Right.
of what's going on.
Right.
You know,
Right.
how about you just go sit with somebody that you don't agree with and try to learn from them,
Right.
and everybody make that commitment. That's not a hard commitment to make, you know, because we all have people. I know I do. We have people in our families or our immediate circles where they just flat out don't agree with anything I say.
Right.
That doesn't make them wrong. It doesn't make me right, but it doesn't make them right either. Being right and wrong is not where we're at.
No.
Right now, we're trying to just find the middle ground.
I feel like right now we're actually just in a big, nasty game of gotcha.
Yeah.
You know, everyone who gets on TV now, you know, if it's a debate situation at all, it's a big game of gotcha. Even watching Congress has become like that, and it's getting old. It's getting really old. There's a great, and I think I've mentioned this to you before. There's a great episode that what's his face? He's on the Jon Stewart show. Jordan Klepper. He did a special on gun control, where he went around to rallies on, you know, Second Amendment rights rallies and anti-gun rallies, and basically found that most of the people at both of the rallies agreed on what we can do to make the country safer. Fully agreed. But the NRA has everyone, it's that finger pointing game. They will not let you sit down and talk to anyone. And they will pay you hundreds and thousands of dollars if you're in office to not even entertain the issue.
And don't forget too, it's they want to call it gun control, okay? Because control by just definition is some sort of impact. It means the government is trying to control.
It's the wrong. Yeah, it's not a good choice
so
of
it's
words.
a hot button.
Yeah.
What we're talking about is gun limits.
Right.
You know,
Gun
we're not talking
restrictions.
about gun control. We're just saying, you know, do you really need 6 AR-15s?
Right.
You know, in your
To go hunting.
to go to go to the grocery store.
And I'm sorry, how many people that own AR-15s are actually hunters?
Yeah, well, whatever.
I don't know what the percentage is,
Yeah.
but you know, and the Second Amendment's another issue. And I know this is hotly debated, and it has been for centuries, but especially the last few decades. But I mean, it does say, for the purpose of a well-regulated militia.
Yes, it does.
It doesn't say any Tom, Dick, or Harry can go to a gun show and buy a gun without a background check. And trying to get that in place is not threatening the Second Amendment. It doesn't conflict with it at all. It does not impede anyone's ability to get a gun. It does not impede anyone's ability to form a militia, should that be needed. I don't know why that would be needed, although lately I wonder.
Yeah.
But really, I mean, the militias that are forming aren't, you know, they think they're protecting people's rights. They're not. They want to actually go in and take control. They tried to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer.
Yeah. They want to play army.
They want
With
to play
real
army.
guns.
Exactly.
With
Exactly.
real guns.
Exactly.
And you know, we also have to keep things in context too. I think it's the German expression, I can't remember, but it's called Sitzenleben, which means keeping things into context of the times that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, I'm going to give you a classic example. One of the classic movies when I was growing up in my youth was Easy Rider. It was Jack Nicholson
Right.
and
Peter Fonda.
Peter Fonda. You watch that thing on now; it's the hokiest thing in the world.
It's terrible.
It's terrible. but if you watched it when it was going on, it was the best thing ever.
Right.
Okay. So, you know, our government, our founders, there was no way they could have foresaw that we were trying to arm ourselves with grenade launchers and
Right.
PMGs and whatever. You know,
No, they had muskets that they had to reload
Right.
with every shot or
and
something.
and it just it's again it goes back, and that brings up something else. You know, why weren't people say, well, why weren't there term limits in the Constitution? Well, nobody saw the reason for term limits because they saw serving in the government as a civic responsibility and duty. They didn't think anybody'd ever want to make a lifetime out of it, but here we are.
Here we are.
It's a cottage industry.
Well, look at how much money Trump has made since he stepped in office.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry, his boys.
And these people all have lifetime jobs now.
Yeah.
You know, you really have to screw up bad not to get reelected. You really do. And very rarely do we see the incumbent not win unless they've screwed up.
Right.
And we had I can't remember who the guy. God, it was years ago. What was the guy from? I think it was South Carolina or North Carolina. Strom Thurmond.
Oh,
Strom Thurmond. I think he was like 85 or 90 when he got.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and he was in the.
And he was like against the civil rights movement. He was brutal.
Well, he'd been through. He probably was in the Civil War. No, but
how long has David Duke been in office?
Yeah. Is he still in office?
I think he is.
I don't think he is. But it doesn't matter. Again, the point being that, you know, nobody thought that the people would want to make a lifetime occupation out of being a politician and a public servant.
Right.
It was a civic duty, you know, and it just, but now, but it's up to the people who want it to be a lifetime job to vote on not making a lifetime job. So what are you going to do? So term limits are something that needs to be addressed, but, you know.
Well, we have 8-year term limits, or two 4-year terms. That's the limit.
That's for the president.
For the president. Oh, you're talking about Congress.
I'm talking about in Congress and everything else.
Okay, yeah.
And by the way, that was not part of the original Constitution. That was just part of when Roosevelt had died in his fourth term.
Right.
So they figured out that we needed to do something, but that was an amendment to the Constitution. And everybody agreed on the amendment, and it went through the ratification process because losing Roosevelt was so traumatic to the country.
Right.
So, I'm talking about these people that are lifetime politicians that have never had a job and have been nothing but either a senator or a congressman or some sort of variation thereof.
Career
their whole
politicians,
life.
right.
You know, and to me, I went through that in education a lot, and I'll shut up after this, but I went through that in education a lot. I would see people that were career educators. They had no clue about, just like a lot of people in the outside world didn't know about education. These educators had no clue how the real world works as far as business goes. And I've made this discussion a part of education. They should at least have to take some business classes if they're going to run these entities with multi-million-dollar budgets,
right,
you know?
Right.
But they don't have to adhere to them because they have guaranteed revenue. So it becomes a bureaucratic quagmire.
Right.
Quagmire, excuse me.
And not conversely even, but the other side of that is we seem to have this mindset that the person in office should be a person who has run businesses. And if they run successful businesses and have made a lot of money, they're a good candidate for a presidency. Is Trump running the country like a business right now? I'd say he is. He's like a new CEO, stepping in, firing people left and right, trying to bulldoze through a bunch of his changes. I don't think he's doing a good job, though. So I don't think I'm not saying we shouldn't look for people. We shouldn't elect people with business experience, especially if they've been successful at it. But he wasn't even a successful businessman. He was born with a silver spoon. He was born with millions of dollars to invest. He got to a point where he was, $14 million in debt or something, or he had to get $14 million from his parents or from his dad just to get back on track again. I don't get how that's a successful business person. The only thing he's been successful at is putting his name on everything and making people think he's successful.
He's good at branding. There's no doubt about it.
He's good at that.
You know, the brand. And he has run some successful businesses, and he certainly has.
He's run as many failed businesses as I think more failed than success.
And that's true. In fairness to him, because I am one of those. I've run some businesses, and about 50% of them were successful. Okay, I've run 4 different businesses. 2 of them failed, 2 of them didn't. But that just because a business fails, that
Doesn't make you a failure. No, I'm just saying. Okay, he failed at running a casino where the house always wins. How do you fuck that up?
well, that's he invested in Atlantic City is what he did. And Atlantic City was going to be the next Vegas, and it just didn't turn out to be. First of all, Atlantic City as a destination is not near as sexy as Las Vegas. I mean, you're in the Northeast. Do you want to go to the desert, or do you want to go to the miserable beach weather in New Jersey? So it just Atlantic City.
I'd kind of rather go to the beach weather in New Jersey, personally.
Well,
but
makes you
I've been to Las Vegas.
Yeah.
We're getting off point, but I just don't see. It's a moot point by now. He's the president, and he got elected.
Well, here's what I want to say about that. Enough's enough. Maybe we can't do anything about it, and we probably can. Okay, that doesn't mean that we don't try. And I think every American now has a civic duty to try and get along.
Oh, absolutely.
And a civic responsibility to try and listen to their fellow citizens and try to learn from each other. And I know that sounds like some namby-pamby ideological mess, but what alternatives do we have right now other than just sit there with a bunch of name-calling,
right,
a bunch of fighting, a bunch of just being mean?
What we have now, basically.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. And my hope is that somewhere down the line, the people that we're talking about, the 70%ers, and we're going to start calling them the 70%ers.
Okay.
The 70%ers start to take their fucking country back. Excuse me, I'm so sorry for cussing, but I feel so strongly about this.
No, I do too.
Yeah.
I do too, and I agree with you 100%. I really believe the middle class needs to take the country back.
Or there will be no middle class.
Or there will be no middle class, exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
exactly.
We're almost there.
We're getting there.
We're very close.
We're getting there. And now let me ask you this, because I know your ideologies are more on the conservative side. How is it, if we look at Project 2025 and everything that's been set into motion, now, when he first came into office and started doing this thing and with the tariffs and jacking up the tariffs, I was like, wait, what happened to him bringing prices down on day one? What happened to that? Don't even get me into ending the wars, but what happened to bringing the price of eggs down? He campaigned on that big time. And then, there's going to be a little bit of a sting. There's going to be a short little period of we're going to have to tighten the belt a little bit. How is it that what he's been doing is going to pay off in our economy? Like, I don't see anything change. I don't see prices going down anywhere. I don't see the price of gas going down. I don't see the price of eggs going down. I see it going up. And we talked about this a little earlier, that I don't see how the tariffs are helping. They don't seem to be helping at all.
I don't either, but I'm going to tell you that I don't know on the tariffs. I just don't know how because it's never really been explained how the tariffs, and I would think if you want people to buy into your economic philosophy, that you would want to explain to people how the tariffs are going to work.
Right.
How they're going to trickle down. Use an old Reagan thing, Reaganomics.
Right.
How
he at least explained it to us in a way we could understand.
How are we going to benefit from the high tariffs?
Right.
And we can say, well, we're going to bring jobs back to America. Okay, how about a timeline? When? Is that 5 years from now? Is that next month? Is that 40 years from now? I don't know. Well, I don't know the answer to those questions. I really don't. But I would like somebody to, at least, if you're going to have a plan, let me know.
What's the plan?
What the plan is.
No, he wants you to just trust him. He just wants you to trust him.
Trust me. You know why? Because he has already told you. He told the United Nations. What did he say to the United Nations? I forget it. He just recently told the United Nations, I hate to brag, or it's not braggadocio, but I'm always right.
Oh, that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so we're supposed to just
trust him.
Hook, line, and sinker. Here we go.
Okay. Well, if he says he's right, he must be right. I mean, yeah, you don't think the United States nations people saw right through that?
Oh, you saw. I'm sure you did. Saw. I think it was a guy from Denmark. He was just sitting there going, shaking his head, just with his head down, just shaking his head, saying, "I can't believe that any politician is speaking before the world,
Right.
saying this
shit. Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, it was embarrassing
Yeah,
as can be.
It really is.
Even if you agreed with him, it was embarrassing. Right.
Yes. But you know what? There's those out there who said, "Well, that shit needs to be said." You know, come on, man.
Oh yeah, like he's schooling the UN or something.
Yeah. He's always the smartest person in the room. He's always the smart, and now he's the smartest person in the world. He just told us.
He just told us so.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's always right.
Yeah. I think we might want to start tapering off here and shutting this down because I'm starting to get pissed.
Maybe that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Man, I don't want you. Did you take your heart pills today?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, good.
I did. And I bought the rest of them with me.
Okay, good.
But it just,
Well, we can change the subject.
No, I don't want to change the subject.
Okay.
I kind of like feeling alive.
Okay.
But I think we're also, aren't we pretty far into this?
We're about 35 minutes in.
Yeah, I think it's time maybe to
Okay, we can wrap it.
Wrap it up. We don't know what we accomplished, but we know that here's what I want to accomplish. I want people to start speaking out against extremism.
Mm-hmm.
I want people to, and you know what? I want you to do that. And then I want you to have another person do it. And I want that other person to have another person do it. And maybe, just maybe, we get this a handle on this thing. If not, well, who knows? I don't even want to think.
I think people on the left are afraid to speak out because they don't want to be canceled. Speaking out against extremists, they don't want. There's a lot of that in cancel. I think people on the right are afraid to speak out because they're going to be called liberals and communists and America haters.
There's probably nothing worse than that for a neocon.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I mean,
you don't want to be called that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I know. But remember, I'm the conservative one of the two.
Right.
Yeah. So, well, let's call it a day.
All right.
I'm Boomer.
I'm X.
Over
and out.